Hello everyone and welcome to another Digimon Ghost Game video. This time I'm going to be giving my quick thoughts on the latest episode of Digimon Ghost Game, which is episode 25, Crimson Banquet. So before I give my thoughts, just a quick recap of this episode. So Ruri is invited to meet with this huge brand company CEO called SV, with a man called Aviel, and this is basically a campaign that's targeting all these influencers. So we find out this company is actually a bunch of vampires led by Dandenong, and they are infecting humans and basically turning humans into vampires because they're doing what vampires do, turning people into vampires and being kind of attractive while they do it, which is very traditional vampire stuff, to be honest. We find out that Dandenong wants to rule the world, as of course he does, and by doing so he wants to turn everyone into a vampire. Then when he finds out that there are humans who have Digimon, he wants to rule with them alongside him, kind of like serving him. It doesn't really say whether or not he would turn them into vampires. I think he would just have them as is, which is kind of cool. Like, that's a kind of cool offer. They don't get to be turned into vampires and he gets friends. I don't know. But anyway, so he ends up challenging them to see if they're worthy, and they don't really put up much of a fight, and Gamamon gets taken out fairly early on by Untitled because the other vampires in the group are like Dracumon, returning from episode like 3, I think it was, 5, very early on in the show, Untitled and Matadormon, who are evolutions from Dracumon as well. So that's kind of cool that we got to see them. So yeah, Angoramon's taken out quite early by the Untitled, which is kind of, I guess he didn't evolve because Ruri wasn't there, so I guess that makes sense he was taken out by an adult-level Digimon. But anyway, and then Tesla Jellymon is reverted to Jellymon very easily in the battle. So then it's just Battle Gamamon fighting Myotismon / Dandenong, and Dandenong uses this bat attack, and Hero starts to feel the pain that Battle Gamamon is having from taking damage in this battle. Hero says, "We can do this together," when he sees that Battle Gamamon's eyes are going black, like he usually does before he turns into Ghoulish Gamamon, and Ghoulish Gamamon ends up evolving into, Battle Gamamon ends up evolving into his perfect level, which is Canon Weissmon, who is basically looks like a Yu-Gi-Oh card character. He just looks like Blue Eyes White Dragon, but with some red tinges, I guess. So we finally get a perfect level Digimon. Canon Weissmon easily destroys ? Dandenong, it's kind of vague, he just turns into bats. I'm not sure if this means that Dandenong has died, or if that was just his method of retreating. I don't know, but Matadormon and Untitled also kind of flee the scene, and everyone is very impressed by Canon Weissmon. Despite this episode feeling like a Ruri episode, it's a stealth hero episode. So that's basically what happened in this episode. So the evolution, I just want to start off by saying, was pretty well animated, was super cool to see. It's nice that we're finally getting to perfect. I didn't care too much about taking this long to get to a perfect level, but I know a lot of people have been itching to see more evolutions from this show, and we finally got it in this episode, so I'm sure that that'll make a lot of people happy, hopefully. So it was very cool to see the perfect level evolution, especially because we kind of thought the Canon Weissmon was coming in the next few episodes. It is a shame, however, how the Digimon TV Twitter account kind of spoiled that we were getting Canon Weissmon in this episode on Twitter, like a few hours before the Crunchyroll debut of the episode. So that's a little bit of a shame. It wasn't a surprise because of that. So maybe I enjoyed this episode less because I already knew that Canon Weissmon was coming in this episode, and I already had that knowledge, so I kind of wish that I didn't scroll Twitter, because, yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, it's one thing to see it after the episode has been officially released on Crunchyroll, but it's another thing that it was spoiled on Twitter before it was released worldwide. It only aired in Japan. It aired in Japan, like, probably about, I think, 2 hours before the Crunchyroll release. But anyway, so I already knew that Canon Weissmon was coming in this episode, so I was kind of expecting it. And I think that might have, like, taken something out of my enjoyment of this episode. So anyway, it was kind of cool to have an evolution. However, this episode felt like a weird time to have the evolution episode, because it wasn't a Hero episode, there was no setup for Hero in this episode. We've had Hero and Gamamon set up in previous episodes, but this episode didn't really have much Hero and Gamamon hanging out doing stuff and having characters, because it was a Ruri episode. The episode also suffered from what I call the Ghost Game problem, which is these episodes should be either two-parter or be longer than 20 minutes in length. I felt like there was a lot of build-up. It was like, oh, okay, here's the company, here's what they're doing, oh, he's turning girls into vampires, oh no. And then there was a battle, and then it ended very quickly. And even after the battle was like, okay, end time. Very quick. But again, that is what I call the Ghost Game problem. It ends very quickly, and I'm always like, I always kind of want more. And that, I guess that's a good thing. I am enjoying it enough. So I wasn't always a fan of the Canon Weissmon design from when it first debuted. Like, when we saw it on the Vital Bracelet, or we've seen art of it online or what have you. I was not really a fan of it, but I think the episode actually does it justice. It's quite well animated, which makes it look even better, and the evolution sequence was pretty cool. I don't know why I was expecting a new evolution song to be played. I guess we were kind of spoilt with Adventure Colon, how there was a different theme every time we had a different type of evolution. So I guess that kind of spoiled me on that, but it's still a cool song, and it was nice to see, and it was well animated. So yes, we got evolution. That was cool. We also got Dracumon, who hasn't appeared for about 20 episodes, and I was really looking forward to his return. However, while it was kind of exciting to see him again, and the fact that he was not just a hologram, he was actually physical, so I guess he learnt that from Dandenong or something, I don't know. I felt like as soon as he revealed himself to be Dracumon, he died. Like, Myotismon killed him, and it felt incredibly anticlimactic. I was expecting Dracumon to end up being the big bad, or at least a reoccurring bad guy, or in any case, the next chosen that shows up on the show and gets a Digimon, they get partnered with Dracumon. I was kind of expecting that because the Digimon had a character, and it kind of left and was like, I'll be back and I'll be evil. It felt kind of hilariously anticlimactic that we had Dracumon show up in this episode, only for Dracumon to die in in a very quick amount of time. Like, it was very much like, oh, Vandemon's attacking him. Oh no, Vandemon is killing him. It felt like it was very quick and, as I said, hilariously anticlimactic. I was expecting something there, and I guess that'll learn me for having predictions, I guess. So that was a little bit weird to see Dracumon come and then die very quickly, but it was nice to see. It's nice that it's not just like a loose end it's just a Digimon that was just there and showed up. Like, I don't know, but I guess we're not having Dracumon come back in any way, shape or form in the plot. We do have Sangloopmon and Matadormon, who, as I said before, are evolutions from Dracumon, so maybe they come back, but Dracumon from early in the series coming back is unlikely unless he's reborn or doesn't actually die or what have you. Also, I mentioned it a bit, but Vandemon, I'm not sure if he died or not. I'm not sure if I think he died, but it's not super clear. Like, he doesn't explode into data particularly, he just explodes into bats, which in the original adventure, that's kind of how he moved around. He would just explode into bats and then he'd reform, and that's kind of how he existed and how he transported himself. He would just become bats. I don't know. But in any case, this episode is kind of a hard one for me to rate. There was a lot that I liked about it, but there was also a lot that I didn't like. I don't know why it was a Hero episode, for example. It felt like a Ruri episode. I'm glad that it was kind of not just Mon of the Week filler like we've previously had. It was Mon of the Week, but we get an evolution. And we had Dracumon come back. But again, Dracumon coming back really just didn't mean anything. It was cool for about 5 seconds and then he died. And that was, just really disappointing. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to talk about it, but we did also had last week's episode, which was not an episode, it was a recap clip show, but it was only a recap and clip show of episodes 2 and 4. So I guess the fact that we didn't have an episode last week kind of played into the fact that I was looking forward to this episode. I was looking forward to more Ghost Game, and then this episode was, I don't want to say disappointing, but it wasn't as good as previous episodes. It wasn't like a terrible episode, and it definitely wasn't boring, but I'm not a huge fan of this episode compared to what we could have had. But I guess we have an evolution now, so that's kind of cool. I wonder how soon we'll get the evolutions from Angoramon and Jellymon to perfect. I wonder if it'll be like episode after episode, or it'll be like 10 episodes apart again. I don't know. You can't really tell with Ghost Game. But anyway, yeah, so the episode last week wasn't an episode. It was, as I said, a recap of episodes 2 and episodes 4. Which felt kind of weird because we're up to episode 25. They didn't even mention Kyoshiro existing, so it almost felt like it was an episode that was meant to be released like a special thing after episode 4, because it was kind of vaguely Halloween themed. So that was really weird to see. Like, I watched it and I was like, oh, they're spending a long time talking about the Mummymon episode, and then by the time they finished talking about the Mummymon episode, I was like, wow, that was half the episode length. What are they going to do now? And then they talked about the Pumpkinmon episode for the rest of the half. It was really kind of strange, and it felt like a weird place to put it. I think they might have just recorded it after episode 4 and then released it kind of like as a buffer if they needed more time after the hack. I don't know. Why not release it earlier, during the hack or something? I don't know. It felt weirdly put there, and yeah, I mean, like, I thought that maybe it would be like, oh, we're getting Dracomon, so we're trying to recap the early episodes. But no, they killed Dracomon, which I'm kind of, like, vaguely salty about. I love Dracomon design. I think he's really cool. He's one of my favourite Digimon that you can raise on the Digimon Accelerator Virtual Pet. So I was really cool to maybe potentially have him in the series as a partner Digimon of the, you know, the evil chosen, or the chosen character who joins halfway through the series. But that's not happening, and it's also not happening that he's going to be the big bad of Grand Dracomon. Of course, we do have Sangloopmon and Matadormon who did leave at the end of the episode, and they also evolve into Grand Dracomon, but it's not going to be the Dracomon. So, it is nice to see his evolution path, but, again, he died. QQ, so sad. But anyway, those are more or less my thoughts for this episode. I'm still not 100% about how I feel about this episode. I liked parts, I didn't like parts, and yeah, that's all there is to really say about it. I mean, it's still, I know I should probably stop saying, going back to other seasons of Digimon that are unrelated, but I still think that I enjoyed this episode a lot more than a lot of Adventure Colon, especially in terms of the animation. I recently rewatched some clips from Adventure Colon, and particularly like the Blitz Greymon debut episode clips I saw, and the clips are just like Digimon sliding on a background. Like, it's not particularly incredibly animated. They did have some great animated episodes, but that was not one of them. Bodramon doesn't flap her wings. Metal Greymon flaps his wings. Bodramon does not flap hers. It's a weird one. But anyway, so enough ragging on Colin, because I have so many podcasts where I just do just that. But anyway, so this was an episode. It wasn't a fantastic episode, but it was a lot better than it could have been. But it's also a lot worse. A lot worse than it could have been. But what did you think about this episode? Were you surprised that Dracomon died? Are you happy just to see Dracomon come back? Let me know in the comments. Like this video because, I don't know, you also like Dracomon maybe? Subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, I'll see you on the next video. Bye!